Hello, Marco. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I can.
All right. I think we can begin. Waiting for the music to stop. We can speak when the music stops. How are you feeling today? How's the weather in Rome?
Perfect. It's good. You see, I have a t-shirt.
You have a t-shirt. It's sunny already. Excellent.
Yeah.
I think we can begin. Excellent. All right. I'm ready to start, and I hope everyone in the chat is ready to start. We already have 30 people in this platform and more than 30 people on LinkedIn, and people will be joining as we start. Now, why are we here today? The previous event, ChatGPT and localization, has been a huge crowd. It has attracted so much interest from the industry. I've never seen so many people in Zoom before, never before in my career. Marco, you probably have presented at NVIDIA conferences and big events, but in localization, there hasn't been anything that significant so far.
Right? I totally agree, Konstantin. And I think even I should see the number at the NVIDIA conference, but maybe you have also won over them for that record.
I don't know. We'll see how we do on the second event. Anyway, so there is a tremendous interest in the industry in ChatGPT, and that's why we decided to make it a more regular thing and keep coming up with smaller sessions focused on specific topics with very interesting people like yourself, as we are building for the second ChatGPT and localization event closer to May. Now, in our first event, you had 0 minutes to answer any of the dozens of questions that the audience have showered on you. So today is the opportunity for everyone who has joined to meet you in person online, ask the questions, and collaborate in a cozy, informal way. So we're in t-shirts, enjoying the sunny weather, drinking tea. I don't know, maybe someone's drinking some wine. And in this kind of relaxed environment, we can hope to achieve a good connection with the audience. I hope everyone here agrees, and let us know in the chat where we will start. The order of business will be very simple. We'll allow people to come on stage and mute the microphone and camera and speak their questions directly. If you want to do so, please ask your question in the QA section or raise your hand, and I'll prompt you to come and pose the question. I'm sure everyone has lots of to ask of you, and I guess that the topic today would be the industry impact and the business side of ChatGPT. Who is better to address the business side than yourself, Marco?
I'm sorry, can I interrupt for...
Please go ahead.
Can I interrupt for 1 second?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Can we ask people to turn on their cameras so we can see their faces now?
All right. If everyone's comfortable, let us know. Turn on your camera, participate in the meeting. Thank you, Kate, for the prompt. And I see that people are happy to do so. Excellent. Perfect. Let's begin. Marco, let's start with a small summary of what we have heard in the previous event. I know that ChatGPT is revolutionizing the search, breaking the internet accord, having some impact on localization. Maybe it can be used for translation, maybe not. It definitely helps with authoring. What is your key takeaway from the previous event? What is the most important thing that we bring on the table today to start our discussion?
So first, Konstantin, thank you so much for inviting me a second time. And also, I'm super happy that today we're having a more human-to-human discussion. Breaking records is a great thing, but thousands of people is very hard to establish a relationship. And I think with this smaller group here, we can go and discuss more deeper things in a even more open way and adaptable. So I'll try to recap the last story. And so we talked about ChatGPT and localization, and I talk a little bit about my background and why my background. So from the machine translation world and from the large language model worlds that connected unexpectedly. And so the fact that I've been following this since the beginning, when it was not really cool. And we talked about the importance of language. And so we started reminding everyone that the top keywords is now AI and language. And so we reminded everyone why the work we do in language translation is so important, and the impact has in the evolution of humans. And then we went a little bit to try to understand the language singularity. So the fact that actually linguistic singularity, so a machine that is able to translate better than human, is something that we're not there yet, but there is clear and continuous progress in that direction. So because our brain do not improve a lot, and instead computers do, at one point, we may be able to achieve that point. So we have to prepare for that. And then we started discussing exactly on ChatGPT and the difference between ChatGPT and machine translation. Now, something that is absolutely designed for fluency, and machine translation, which is designed for accuracy. And we try to discuss about the evolution of these things and ideas on application, etc. And then we explained also the business part, how the model is maybe not, ChatGPT is breaking the model. People were writing content to get traffic. Now they write content to train an AI without receiving traffic. So we elaborated a little bit on the possible future scenarios of this. And we concluded by the fact that we are in a very lucky situation, because if everyone is talking about AI and now about language, and language is the way to reach artificial general intelligence, then we are in a very preferred situation, very preferred spot, our industry, to try to help this progress and drive it also in the proper direction. Because maybe that whole history we have in understanding language and the impact of language maybe can help us in directing this technology in the right way. So it was welcoming everyone and believing in everyone. And we concluded like this. And we had too many questions. And so here we are for a more one-to-one discussion, open and ready to discuss with all of you.
And Marco, we already have the first question coming from the floor. So I think Please. The summary is ready. I have a first question from Radoslav. So Radoslav, if you'd like to come up and ask a question, please feel free to do so. Open up your microphone, the camera. And your question is about transcreation. Do we have Radoslav on the stage?
Yeah, thank you very much, Marco, for your presentation. Actually,
hi.
Hello. I'm interested because I work in the transcreation industry, and I'm interested now. I'm making some experiments with the transcreation capabilities of ChatGPT. I'm interested. What's your opinion? Do you think that it's gonna have, and what usage is gonna have in the specifically in the transcreation services? How do you see?
Yeah.
Thank you.
First, the technology is beautiful, but it's extremely hard to find business model that actually works. Okay, and this is always true with innovation. But then if you're able to find it before the others, then you're quite lucky. So in transcreation, I think is a great way to apply large language models. And then you have multiple ways of doing it. And one way is just supporting the creators in content writing. And this is really, you have basically this short description of the task, and basically you ask the machine to do it, and then you review it. But the interesting part of this part of the work, which is incrementing human capabilities in writing quickly and better, is the feedback loop idea. When you are involving a human in the loop, you can take now the new data, the prompt that you asked, and not the ChatGPT solution, but actually what you corrected, and you reinject this into the model. It's called fine-tuning the model, and it's already available there in the APIs. And so this thing here, that approach is helping the machine to follow you in your specific way of writing. And so I find this application incredible for increasing the quality and the productivity of things you do. And trust creation, I think this is one great application. And obviously, I think that because it's so easy to do, there's more people that may go and instead of translating content, instead working on trust creation. I made an example of some work that we're doing here, and we experienced that by having a model generating something, a fine-tuned model, by the way, and then you have a copywriter instead of a translator, you can achieve a better quality of the content than just creating the content in English and translating. So we're not talking about margin and efficiency. We're really targeting quality here. And so I think this is a great opportunity. But then from this to market is hard because translation market is relatively smaller than translation market. So it will take time before the market develops, even if the technology is immediately available.
I have some interesting things to add to this, Marco. Back in the day, I actually made some research into how transcreation and translation is done. So marketing translation, very close to transcreation, is done in a cat tool. But most of transcreation for songs, for slogans, whatever you name it, has been done in Word and Excel. There has not been an industry tool for that. That has been an underserved niche because the cat tools obviously don't help with creativity. And over the last couple of years, since ChatGPT or GPT-3 came about, the focus has been on these applications like Jasper AI, like Copy AI, and people went there, but they're not tailored towards the organized workflow that the localization industry knows so well.
Yep.
And this niche of copywriting and transcreating for the localization, for the organized enterprise workflow has been a little bit underserved. SmartLink has tried to go there with SmartLink Draft, I think 5 years ago, but it didn't fly. So now it's another opportunity for the language industry to cover this need, right? Effective transcreation, which is aided by the augmented by the AI, but it has the human at the heart. I think, are you working on making this tool kind of available to everyone?
So no, we're not working on a tool to write because we have a naming problem. Because a tool for transcreation would be called computer-aided transcreation, and CAT already was taken by CAT tools for translation. So we're not going to do it. It's a joke. So we don't have a project right now in that direction. But I think definitely this is something to do. The strange thing is, so typically we complain about the content that we receive in the localization industry, but very few of us work in the content creation part. And so the company that works in content creation are actually different company, except of Acrolinks, for example, that they were in the middle between the two. They did a great work. So they are the perfect candidate. And actually they were already doing that. Now the technology allowed them to do even better. But so companies like this, I think, will grow. And I think there is an opportunity also to build more tools.
Another one which did it, I think, was Cordoba, right? They pivoted towards authoring and it became Writer AI. Let's move on to the next question. We have the question from Naif about teaching. Naif, are you in a position to come on stage and ask your question? Let's give it a few seconds. If you are, please open up your camera and microphone and let us know. If not, I will read your question aloud. All right, Naif is not coming up, so I'll take his place. How will the AI turn in translation affect the modalities of teaching and training future translators and interpreters? What aspects do you think will be de-emphasized or emphasized in training? So basically how training changes now that we have such a powerful word processor.
That's a
what do the new people
question
need to know, right? It's a big topic.
Yeah. It's a too big question to be answered. And, in some universities are banning large language models from students. Some other are saying, yes, please the model generate the text, but then show us the work that you did in order to improve the text. And so basically you sit on the shoulder of the giants. You get something and you do better. So, and well, I hope that the second approach will develop more. And then I think for all education. In our field, in translation, I think that right now we're used to post-editing. So we already have a long history in interacting with AI through machine translation. And so for us, the learning curve in maybe learning how to interact with large language models for other application is probably shorter time. It's easier to do it. And so I'm confident that as soon as we have a good application of it in our industry, I'm confident that translators will adapt faster than the other professions.
Is there anything that the professor training the next generation of translators, localization managers, and language technologists need to do something right now that ChatGPT is out there? Do they need to start adjusting the curriculums? Because, you know, it takes 5 years to change a curriculum. By the time you've adjusted, the language models will already achieve singularity.
Exactly. So for standard university, I think it's a quite hard task to adapt. But what I recommend to professors all around the world is use it. Because what I'm seeing is that many people here are interested in it and very few are using, even if it became absolutely accessible. And so the more you use it, the more you discover the use case in your own world. The beauty thing of this technology is the capacity of adapting to different tasks. And so that's also why the future of language model looks much more interesting than search, because we have so many vertical. There will be many vertical large language models for different subjects, trained on solving specific topics, rather than one big solution for all problems. And obviously, the corporates will try to lead this by creating a single platform. But I think the knowledge of every one of us in interacting with this can trigger a new idea. And the faster we are in generating this new idea, the more beautiful will be the future, because it will be more diversified, more competition, and so more innovation.
Perfect.
So professors, please use it.
I agree. A similar question from Anna Laura. Anna Laura, would you like to ask it on stage?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Konstantin. Hi, Marco. And thank you for the
Hi.
Q&A question. So what emerged from our previous session is that a lot of change is coming and that we need to stay updated. So I guess my question is related to Naiv's question. Do you recommend any specific training or even formal education that localization professionals should take to stay up to date with the change?
The good news is that you are the most qualified person to interact with a large language model, because you have been interacting with natural language for all your career. There is no one that can actually do that interaction better than you. It's beautiful, this technology, because we remove a certain way. I'm an engineer, let's say, but still we remove power from the engineers, and we, the users of the system, can actually design solutions. What's happening here at Translated is that multiple people are coming up with specific solutions and inventing products because they're able to use natural language when interacting instead of using a programming language. So basically now you have the capability of designing solutions by using your own language instead of C++ or Python. So use it, and you will see no training is needed. After a while, you will get to some good idea.
Marco, what about resources? So there's, I guess, not going to be any problem to learn about the applications for translators. The stuff is all over social networks. Is there a specific resource in engineering that you would recommend the linguists to go to visit, maybe Hugging Face, a book to read? Where could they follow the news that are relevant?
No, I would rather recommend to use. No, all my prototyping personally, I do it on OpenAI, the playground. So so everybody's talking about ChatGPT, okay? But also you can go on openai.com, you can log in, and you go where the API, the documentation is. And there is something called the playground. In the playground, you can play with different models, and can see different level of interaction. So ChatGPT is GPT-3 optimized for conversation. So GPT-3 is more generalized, okay? And there you can play, you have more functionalities. Also, you can show the probabilities, for example, of the model. You can understand what the model is thinking, and you get to understand more deeply what it's doing. So I don't recommend using code. It's something called prompt engineering. So you go there and you invent prompts, way of asking questions so that you get the result you want. I spend personally a lot of time in changing the way I formulate my questions so that I get the results. When I get that, then I generate all the answers. Then I get humans to correct the answer. And then I do something called the fine-tuning. And even for doing fine-tuning of the models, you don't need programming skills anymore, because you put it on a CSV, you put it on a Google Sheet, and prompt your question and the answer, completion is called. And then basically through a command line, okay, you have to install something on your computer. And basically if you have a Mac, simple application, and you run it and you do the fine-tuning. 30 minutes after, you have your custom model. So you can interact easy, you can fine-tune models without asking your friend engineer.
Awesome. Basically, in a day, you can learn a new profession of a prompt engineer. And I saw some of the job postings on the internet. The prompt engineers are in very hot demand right now. And I saw one offering a job for $300,000 a year. I was like, oh my God, somebody would pay that much to a prompt engineer. It's probably a unique job opportunity. On the other hand, Marco, do you think there'll be many prompt engineers required by the localization industry?
That's hard to say. I don't think that there is a demand now for the people will come to translators or linguists directly to ask for prompt engineering at a scale. Maybe we will see projects coming, and so there will be demand. But I think in the initial use cases, customer would like to control the experience much more. They're still experimenting. They probably didn't understand yet how much prompt engineering is important, and so they will not outsource it. So the first phase is that customer will play with it. Then when they find something that works and they need to scale it, they will come to linguists, I think.
Anyway, a useful skill to master. It remains to be seen if every company needs a prompt engineer. Probably many companies, but whether it's tens, hundreds, thousands, or millions, the next few months will tell. All right, we have the next question. Boriana, I see you're already on camera. Go ahead and ask it live, please.
Hello, super wonderful event and initiative. Thank you for organizing, Konstantin. And Marco, you mentioned a few times during the conference, in the beginning of the conference, ChatGPT and localization, that translators will more likely shift to content creation, the profession, and overall. What do you think will be the role of traditional CAT tools as we know them today? Because shifting to content creation doesn't have this unique matching of segments or even paragraphs. Yeah. So what do you think the role of CAT tools will be? Will they have to adapt as well, or maybe in the way we know them?
Yeah, first to clarify, I wrote down 3 different scenarios, and only one of the 3 is that one. So, and I think it's also the smallest one. So I think that some translators—
I heard it in a few other situations, but you were the first to say it, so I wanted to get your opinion.
Okay, so let's say the replacement and moving to content creation is honestly, like, look at translated. So if we want to do content creation in the language, we're not really asking the translator. We're asking a copywriter, a multilingual copywriter. So we prefer the fluency skill of the target language rather than the understanding of the source language, you see? So this, I think, so some translators that are more closer to copywriters, I think that they can move in that direct direction. But I think the big opportunity for us is that there will be a lot of content restructuring. Nobody wants to create content from scratch. This still costs money, even if you get the help, even if you paid 50% less. But still, you don't want, if you spend 10 million in creating content, you don't want to spend another 5 just to create, even if it's 5. What you can do is you restructure your content. Let's say you have all these content and you want to create new pages that summarize the content or recombine the content in different way. This new content that needs to be translated, okay? And this is the new opportunity. So that will still happen in the CAT tools. And my prediction is that there will be more content restructuring, and so more translation work than ever, because that new content was extremely inexpensive to be created. So the volume there will be massive. So some people will say, okay, because it was low-cost creation, then I will use machine translation. But then because this content initially was expensive, I think you still have the budget to do human translation. So it's many question marks, but to me, the opportunity of new content is very big.
Reuse, recycle, right? The slogan is...
Yeah, and the demand will increase because some things will become cheaper and we will have the money to do more translations.
Yes.
Thank you.
And by the way, obviously, as we move forward, there is one bad thing that is happening, is that the best translator are actually translating more and more at higher rates. And the one that are not so good are going down. So as we move towards singularity, obviously you want to work with humans, professional translators that can add value, okay? So as the bar increases, the pay rate goes up, the importance of the translator increases, but there would be a distribution of wealth, which is quite different. So it's important to always don't become lazy and keep investing in becoming the best translator in the world.
Yeah, that's a good tip.
Perfect advice. Let's move on. Gilberto, you're up next with the provocative question, what about the lies? Are you ready to come on stage?
Yeah, I think so. So I guess what I'm asking about is it's very fluent. So fluent, I want to call it a bullshit engine, not a language engine, meaning it can just say whatever it wants very well. It should go into politics. And again, that's kind of the aspect. But what I was looking at is when we do a prompt, when we're asking for things, one of the tricks is to make it say, you're very truthful, very smart, very nice GPT, and you're not going to lie to me, right? And I was actually reading an interesting thing. It's kind of just come up recently, but it's based on Carl Gustav Jung, if you guys remember him. It's like one's unconscious beliefs are as strong as the effort to suppress them. It's like, you know, the less you live your unconsciousness, the more it comes through. And so what I'm thinking is when we ask something to be particularly friendly, nice, and truthful and intelligent, it's going to go, yeah, what you're saying is don't do that, right? And so it kind of puts in the backwardsness. And so what I'm wondering is a lot of people are expecting information retrieval, like a search engine out of this thing. In reality, they're not looking at the hidden under layer canopy, so to speak, of if you tell me not to lie, that means they're lies. Lie? I can do that. And so there's kind of like this narrative dance that no one's actually addressing because we're just saying, it's just Google. I just type in a word and I get other words back, right? It's good. Instead of I'm saying a story, I'm putting in a prompt, I'm putting in a narrative, and it's going to fill in the blanks for that narrative. And sometimes narratives are fictions. So I'm just wondering, how do we relate with that? Because a lot of the people I see are saying, well, it's a truth engine. It tells me how to do things in better ways. And so there's a fundamental trust factor, I think, just in general, that we have to address.
Thank you. That's a super great question. And so in my presentation the other week, I mentioned, in fact, that machine translation is designed for accuracy. If someone is saying something in the source, our job is to make sure that in the target, we represent the same concept. And instead, language models are designed for fluency. Now, I think to do another analogy to the one that you did and are great, is that we gave the fluency capacity of a Nobel Prize to a very stupid person, and sometimes also mean person, okay? So the problem is that this mean person doesn't even know that he's lying. So it's stupidity. okay? And so really is very dangerous. So the positive element of this is that the difference between ChatGPT and GPT-3 is a model that's in the middle. It is called Extract GPT. So Extract GPT, that's the value. So 33,000 samples of prompt ranked in quality, 5 completions and ranked by humans for how much they like it. This data was used to retrain the model in a sophisticated way, but still a fine-tuning of the model that then was able to emerge and then make emerge some great interaction and solving problems. So GPT-3 was really fluency, was never accurate about things, was inventing words, was a great artist on stage doing improvisation with only 33,000 examples. Now, 50% of the time, he get it right. So I think why we're so excited is that 33,000 examples labeled is $100,000 of data. So it's the potential of if we inject a lot more knowledge, the system will be able to interact better. And this is not simple. It's not just adding more data there. You need to label the web, for trust instance. What can I learn from fictional content? No, because you're learning different things. So we have to label the source data. We have to improve the algo in the way that is extracting the data and classify the data. And then basically the generation model also has to improve. So there's a lot of work, but why we're so excited is that with a small step, this large language model made a progress, but still don't use it today for serious stuff. And I only had very funny and bad experiences by trying to do certain search.
The important part is it will become better. It will be more truthful, unless some people take it in the other direction. Gilberto mentioned politics. I'm sure when the next election comes, some model is going to speak with 1 million voices on social media promoting this side or that side, and it's going to be weaponized immediately.
Yep.
All right. With this positive note, let's move on to the next question. Laura, it's your turn. Are you ready?
Yeah. Hi, Constantine. Hi, Marco. Thank you very much for this interesting event. It's really great. Well, actually, my question was already answered by to the question by Boriana, because I was worried if I got it right, the GPT-3 evolution will bring about in our industry a major disruption of processes, and I understood that it will change and transform translation into a proper content creation process, which will be already done in the target language and will use the source language as a simple reference, more or less. But you already answered that this is only a niche. And
yeah, I think it will help people to create more content through restructuring also. And then because it's now cheaper to create content, so some companies will just create the double of the content, and they will need also to translate more. So the positive element, I think, is bigger than the negative. I see an opportunity for us, not really a challenge.
Okay, but will this change and bring about a major breakthrough and disruption process, the same as it happened already with the neural machine translation? I mean, and how many years or months, I think, will take this?
Okay. Also, I think Marco ties with the question I asked last time in the previous meeting. Will ChatGPT and this large language model supersede neural machine translation? Is that the next generation?
No, I think it's a little bit more complex, but I want to give just example. So users are moving from Google to ChatGPT for their interaction. What they're doing there is not exactly the things that they were doing in Google. They also changed the behavior. They're solving their use cases, but now they're using the tool in a different way. So will they go back to Google for Google Translate to do the translation if they can have that information there? I don't think so, because sometimes, so ChatGPT is able to produce the content directly in the language they want. Today, I search the internet and I find a page in another language that maybe is talking about what I'm interested in, and so I'm willing to translate the content with machine translation. So in ChatGPT is bypassing the problem completely by giving you the solution in the language directly. And then for small sentences, etc., maybe you don't want to change your UI, so you don't go back to Google Translate. So I think in the consumer space, there would be a lot of competition. But if you think about the enterprise world and the people that are serious about machine translation, I mean, large language models are general purpose models that are slow, expensive, now less expensive, but still big, quite expensive, and they're not very good at the task of translation. On the other side, you have the exact same technology. It's always the transformer. So the technology behind is the same, fine-tuned for a specific use case, which is translation. And it's super fast, inexpensive, and extremely high quality. So I think in the future, there will be, as I said, more specific application of large language models. And in machine translation is already that. It's just that the configuration of the transformer is slightly different, but language models are one sentence without the last sentence, the last word, and the full sentence. And you train a language model exactly as you train machine translation, but instead of having source and target, you have source minus one word and target with the full word in English or whatever language you want to use. It's monolingual. So I don't think that it will supersede neural machine translation in all application, but some specific UIs, I think simply the need of translation will not exist anymore because the content is produced directly.
Marco, I see that you're not only an investor, an entrepreneur, but also an engineer at heart. And I believe there needs to be a little bit of a translation here. So people will spend time in ChatGPT like they started spending time in WhatsApp. I don't know, 10 years ago, there was no WhatsApp or I don't know, no Facebook, right? And now people spend a few hours of their time every day or every week on these applications. So a year from now, a normal person would spend, I don't know, half an hour of their time every day on ChatGPT. And this would be the revolution, not necessarily that ChatGPT is going to be used for translation. It's just that I will search for information on ChatGPT and I'll get it in my language, so I will not need Google Translate. Did I understand you correctly?
Perfect. Some use cases, yes, will completely replace because the problem will not exist anymore. Okay. But all the people that are serious about translation and needs speed, quality, and cost, I think they will prefer customized model, very specific solution. So vertical solution, the transformer applied to translation, where we have a different problem. Language model, fluency, translation is about accuracy. So it really comes from two different vision.
Two different angles. All right. Okay. Laura, does it answer your question?
Yes, of course. Thank you very much.
That was impressive. All right. We have one final question in the chat. And if we don't have any more coming up after this one, I'll ask one question from the previous list and then wrap up. Or if you'd like to have your question answered by Marco while he's on a roll, answering difficult questions with the speed of flight, please give us more questions in the chat. So we have a question from Shamsu about Hausa language, and I think it's an interesting question to address. Shamsu, are you available to ask your question about the language live?
Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening. You can go ahead, we can hear you.
Okay, I was introduced to this new development not more than a week or so ago. So I just developed too much interest in it. I explored a number of things. Then I realized when it comes to translation, this ChatGPT does not translate content correctly. Say something like 30%, it will be something like 30% correct, but the rest of it will be something abracadabra. It does not make sense. So I begin to wonder if there is any way that I can improve it, maybe because it's my language. That's my question.
Thank you. Marco, low resource languages, Hausa.
Wow.
That's an interesting question.
Because large language models have to do many things. Translation is just one activity. They don't focus on that. So unfortunately, ChatGPT we're probably supporting probably 40, 50 languages. But the bad thing is that, and you will see many papers that have been published on comparison. For the top languages, they're quite okay. They're below Google, below Microsoft, below Amazon, but they're okay. And if you go in long tail of languages, they perform very, very badly. So over time, they will improve. And then to your question, can I help ChatGPT to improve it? So technically, yes, you can. And you can generate translations and basically then fine tune a model for Hausa. The problem is that, is this convenient? And in general, is absolutely not convenient because the fine tuning of a very large model like this costs money, and the quality improvement you're getting is very small. So you take a standard neural machine translation technology, and your contribution will improve the quality much more. And so if it was me, for example, we're not trying to adapt large language models to do translation by fine-tuning them. Instead, we're using large language models, for example, in certain elements of the model to try to help the translation to become more fluent. But I don't rely on the language models because you're trying to get something for fluency to try to be accurate. And I rather prefer to start from accuracy and then getting fluency.
All right, so the short answer is no, and it's better to go to a real machine translation engine.
Yeah, technically you can, but if you contact Konstantin, I think Konstantin can give you the solution for this in a very easy way, even because the name of the company is called Custom and
Thank you, Marco.
Looks like the solution.
Moving on to the next question. Alina, you're up with your second provocative question of this evening. Are you ready? Alina? There we go. We can see you. There we go.
Nice. Thank you. Hi. Hi, Marco. Hi, Konstantin.
Hi.
So my question for you was, do you see any applicability for your Airbnb account or similar type of account for the actual needs of translation?
This is going to be a bomb, Marco.
Sorry if I have such a disruptive question. I cannot abstain.
Thank you. Thank you. Because, it's good to have challenging questions. It makes me feel human.
Thank you.
So I think that companies like Airbnb, everyone, especially company that has got a lot of content, and especially company that has got a lot of user-generated content in their platform, they have an asset. And so all these companies basically make money because they have this content, and in one way, this content is bringing them advertising revenue, service revenue, or product. So it's the asset that they have. And obviously, Airbnb and similar companies are extremely interested in this technology. And that's, I can predict, and I don't think this is secret, etc. But obviously, restructuring of content, improving the content creation workflow is extremely important. But also very interesting is how you combine technologies like ChatGPT or language models in general, together with our generative technologies in order to create something more engaging for the user. And I want to give you an example that we're working on for one client. So you take a model that predicts a nice music given certain images. Then you can predict an ambient sound that fits those images also, music, sound. And that is done through two models, classifiers, easy. Then you take the content that the user has in the page and you summarize the content in a shorter form that is optimized for audio. And then through generative models for text, so you generate the audio, okay? And so while I'm driving, I can listen to the content even if I don't have a screen. And we know every company is competing for screen time. The place where nobody can compete is car, because you are not allowed to see a screen, and radio is still winning. So by combining large language models with other generative technologies, smart, you can come up with great solutions that have an impact. First, for disability. For people that have got disability, they cannot read, they can hear content. And now, before it was too hard to deliver that content, now they can. but also most importantly, to win the attention of the user when they don't have access to a screen. That's just an example of the thing that you can do by combining multiple things.
Awesome. Time and attention are the most precious, aren't they?
Yep.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you very much,
Um,
Marco. Thank you, Konstantin.
Thank you, Alina. So we're approaching the end of our time. It's been 45 minutes that Marco has been answering nonstop. Marco, how are you feeling? Are you feeling well? Is it challenging to provide such specific and detailed answers to so many questions? Many of them are challenging or provocative.
So first, I would like the real provocative hard questions. You're being too kind. Every one of you was very kind in soft questions. I like when things get spicy. So first, thank you for being so nice. Then I'm feeling very, very good. And so if you have another question or if the time is now over, I'm happy
We
to
have a couple more
take it.
questions, and let's take
Perfect.
5 minutes to address them. We have 3 questions from Boriana, but Boriana, please pick one that you feel like it's the most pressing and the hottest and the most provocative.
Yes.
Marco is asking for something difficult. He is in the field.
Well, then definitely I'm going with number 2. And, I have linguistic education. I've been trained on working with corpora. So the whole notion behind large language models, well, of course, small language models is not foreign to me. And, I understand the whole excitement of developers and the things that they can achieve. But in some cases, I feel like linguists are kind of missing in the process. So, you also mentioned a few times that you're an engineer, but I, as a linguist and as a multilingual linguist on top, I am also a localization consumer and user. And when I work on localization process, I also take it from the perspective of the user, of the consumer of a language product. So don't you think that this whole process somehow tends to forget the linguistic side of things? Like, I don't see as many linguists working on these processes as many engineers I see.
Yeah, I think, yes, I totally agree. Very few, but please understand that Konstantin was the fastest one to create an event about this. So I think that people are understanding the existence of this now, these weeks. I think that probably they were not aware of what was happening, and they were not aware of how this was easy for them to do. So what I can do, if you want, I can show you, I have one slide, I show you something that our linguist did independently, and then we integrated this into our process. So I don't know if I can get this slide. So
we can see your slide, I think.
So perfect, okay. So what happened is that imagine that you have a term that you don't know the meaning, okay? And you're translating in the source. This is MateCat, our cat tool. And so what our linguist did, said, you know something, instead of going to the dictionary, I would like to click on a word, and I would like the system to explain the meaning of the word in that context. If you go on the dictionary, you have to listen to read all the definition for that word. I want the system to explain me what that means in that context. And now in MateCat, we're just shipping that. You double click, behind that, there is a large language model that will explain you the meaning in context. So basically it's simple, and this was designed not by an engineer. It was completely designed by a linguist. It did this prompt engineering, so created the questions so the machine was able to answer. We tested it, and we changed the prompt until we reached a 94% accuracy. And at that point, we said, okay, 94% of the time is saying, right, gets this into production. And so there was like 2 weeks, 1 week of working, or maybe 2, from a linguist, and a day of engineering. And that's beautiful.
So linguists have a big impact now on the model. It's very reassuring.
Yeah. Okay.
Marco.
Also, maybe I can show you also.
Though.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So look at this one also is the rephrasing. So typically machine translation, you get the suggestion, and basically now in MateCat, you can get the rephrasing based on all documents. So we're asking the model, hey, can you rephrase this sentence in another way, given the context of this document? And so what's happening is that the model is giving alternative translations. And so some of them are definitely more fluid the machine translation. So we're combining MT and models in a very easy way. So there is multiple ways. And also this one was designed by a linguist, not by an engineer. And I don't think the engineer actually can do prompt engineering very, very well. You need a linguist to do it.
Perfect. I probably am allowed to ask you one question myself, if you don't mind. So Marco, we of course will be doing many more of ChatGPT and localization sessions, eventually migrating into large language models. I think we can see how we can cover the topic. What is your view on the next 6 months, right? So what is happening? You are inside OpenAI. You understand how the technology plays in the society. What happens in the next 3-6 months? We know what happens in the year 2, 5, singularity, updates to the models, but what happens in the next 6 months? What events we should expect?
First, I will say that I'm close to OpenAI. I've been following OpenAI. I'm not inside. No, I'm not an employee of the company. I've been a user, power user, and I use
You're an
also,
influencer on them, right? You have the
we good relationship, and we worked together on many ideas in the past. So in the next 6 months, so first, one thing for you, which is an ask. I think we did a conference, we did Ask Me Anything, but what everybody here is asking is really to do it. So if you organize a workshop in how to do these things, and in one day we transform a linguist into a prompt engineer, I think we're making a great service to the entire community. So first, my challenge is for you, please organize a workshop to become a prompt engineer. And second, I think so that there would be people engaged.
Challenge accepted.
The platform, good. So I think that the platform will evolve very soon also. As I said, this is breaking the internet deal, so it cannot stay like this. It cannot be that they use the content of everyone and they don't bring any traffic to anyone. So these need to be a little adjusted, and I predict that something will come. What my dream is to see a language store. Like you have an app store, very soon language models will be able to integrate the different functionalities from others. And so you can really interact, and everybody can contribute with their own services into the platform. I hope for this, and I also think that they will have to do something like this because they cannot keep the position that they have. I also think there will be many crazy situations. I see a big hype. My day is spent in explaining the difference now between neural machine translation and ChatGPT. Because all our customers are coming to us and say, hey, why don't we use ChatGPT for the translation? I say, come on, I've been spending 20 years on this. And now that we solved the problem, you want me to go back to something that is only a component of machine translation, which is the language model. So I don't think that people understood the complexity of the things that we already solved. So I think you will have in your job to explain the difference. So it's very
actually, Marco, we already have 2 projects running where we compare, right? You know how we benchmark everything on the market. We compare. Perfect. And we have already 2 projects running right now.
Super cool. But so everybody is asking this, and I think it's not about quality. It's about how can we use this. And so latency, for example, these systems are 10 times lower than this. So many applications, live chat, etc., cannot be done with these technologies. The fact that they are fluent and not accurate. And so in terms of number of errors, there are maybe 20% more errors, but in terms of severity of the errors, they create disaster. So we have to be able, and you have to be able to explain this. So in the next 6 months, I think there will be, now there is hype, you will have to clean and make sure that we understand what we have to take from large language models and what we need to avoid. And it's a great opportunity, so we have to welcome it, but also we have to be able to communicate properly. So I think a lot of study from everyone. This is what I predict. And then I think after that, I think then the opportunity will build up. And so really the process will be new content, new translation work, and new opportunities, maybe new tools for creating content.
So fighting the hype for 6 months and then repacking the content into more translation work growth for the language industry. That's a great prediction.
Support your customer to understand what it is. Yes.
That's a much better way to put it. All right. I think we completed our rounds of questions for today. And thank you everyone who asked the question. Huge thanks and a round of applause to Marco. Please show your applause by the emoji in reactions. Let's give Marco the credit for magnificent, spot on, detailed technical answers. No bullshit was detected today, no lies. It was all very, very precise and to the point. So Marco, kudos and congratulations on this great session.
And if you were shy and you could not ask questions, write me on LinkedIn. Please keep the conversation open until Konstantin will do this workshop for all of us.
We'll start planning the workshop. All right, the game is on. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to host you. Until we meet again. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Konstantin.
Thanks. I'll reconnect with you later.
And I have to jump because I have a call in 4 minutes.
Yeah.
But,
good luck.
But thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.